Hello everybody and welcome back to World Talks here on TVP World. My name is Don Arlett. Breaking news, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy's visit to the White House has been cut short after he got into a heated exchange with U.S. President Donald Trump and Vice President Vance, who accused him of quote-unquote disrespectful behavior during their talks in the Oval Office. No mineral deals were signed, the White House confirms. And now I'd like to welcome Hanna Shelest, Security Programs Director at Ukrainian Prism, to discuss this unprecedented event. Hello, and thank you very much for joining me on World Talks.
Good evening.
Well, right off the bat, let's go ahead. I mean, even when we looked at the doorstep when President Zelenskyy was arriving to the White House, President Trump immediately attacked him, saying he wasn't wearing a suit. He later faced that accusation, but it seems like these talks were set to fail from the very beginning. What is your readout right now on everything that we have just witnessed in this historic, unprecedented shouting match in the Oval Office?
You know, regarding the suit, originally we accepted it just as the bad joke because now in the Twitter is widely circulating the photo of Churchill, who came during the Second World War to the White House, also not in the suit. And Mr. Churchill definitely was quite a well-known as the person who is regularly in the suit. So the wartime has the different, sometimes the image things. But the press conference has started very well. Yes, that was tough, but that was the willing from the two sides to sign the agreement, to find the ways. They were jokes, so that was quite a good relations. I would say that everything spoiled when Vice President Vance included himself in the conversation suddenly when nobody really expected. And when I just tried to watch it for the second time, it was clearly visible as the provocation. And you want to believe that it was not specially done, but you cannot skip this feeling. Because originally that was quite a good contact, good words about Ukraine, but then it started just the false accusations that been surprised for the whole audience in the room.
Yeah, and it seems that set off Donald Trump because Donald Trump was actually listening, it seems. That's what I saw. And then you're correct. When J.D. Vance sounded off about Zelenskyy not thanking the United States on this current visit, then things began to devolve. Well, right now, I mean, there's no deal. Zelenskyy has left the White House. Now you have even Republicans such as Senator Lindsey Graham, who was a staunch supporter of Ukraine, and this is also very concerning. He's calling for Zelenskyy's resignation, and the White House is saying that Zelenskyy can't come back until he's ready for peace. So now the big question, where do we go from here? Is it feasible that Zelenskyy remove himself at this point? Or is it more feasible that Ukraine rely solely and 100% on Europe to continue its struggle against Russia?
First of all, it's only Ukrainian people who would decide when their president should resign. And Ukrainians are very grateful to the American people for all those supports from the different members of Congress, from the two different parties. But to decide about our president, should he resign or not, that would definitely be not their business, but the Ukrainians' business, if we accept that we are democratic countries and we follow the rules, but not be the same as the Russian Federation. If somebody in the US administration are afraid to speak against Mr. Trump or Mr. Vance when they are just spreading the lies in front of the journalists. And there were a lot of lies said during this press conference about the current conditions. So that should be the domestic issues of the US politics. It should not jeopardize security of people in Europe, in Ukraine. And let's be honest, not only here. I'm just from South Korea, and the main conversation are there. what if. Here in Qatar, the questions, what if. Everybody would like to be naive that probably the US would not act with them the same way. But all those countries who had military support from the US, who had their security guarantees, are now asking behind the closed door and already even open at the public discussions, can we be really sure that the US is standing with us, but not for the next 4 years? We should rely only on us or on other partners. So I believe that this incident, yes, it would have unfortunately negative implications for Ukraine. We need US support, we need US weapons. But even about the Europe, Trump was lying. He said that they're giving more than Europe. No, Europe giving the equal part, and Europe is giving to Ukraine, while the US is spending significant money for their own companies, or even for their forces in Europe, for example, but it is written in the budget as the support for Ukraine. So in this way, I think that it's not just that Ukraine is relying now predominantly on Europe, but also Europe relies on Ukraine, because it is understanding that we have experience, we have now production, we have technologies. US had the ready to give weapons. That's what we are losing. But Europe has the will, Europe has the industrial complex, and Europe has the understanding why it is important to support Ukraine.
Well, it's a great point you make. The United States has obviously demonstrated it's not a reliable partner and can't keep its commitments. But again, I need to pose the question, what next for Ukraine right now? Does Ukraine walk away from the United States?
I think no, and we can see it from the first tweets of the Ukrainian delegation, including President Zelenskyy in Twitter. He said that we are still thankful to the
Okay, well, it looks like we're having some technical difficulties. Let's see if we can get back to this conversation. It looks like it has disappeared. If we can try and reconnect. Well, we can now take a look at a tweet that was released by Trump just after Zelenskyy, or just as Zelenskyy was leaving the White House. And he said, "We had a very meaningful meeting in the White House today. Much was learned that could never be understood without conversation under such fire and pressure. It's amazing what comes out through emotion. And I have determined that President Zelenskyy is not ready for peace if America is involved, because he feels our involvement gives him a big advantage in negotiations. I don't want advantage. I want peace," in all capitals. He disrespected the United States of America in its cherished Oval Office. He can come back when he is ready for peace. And of course, Zelenskyy putting out on social media right afterwards as well, Zelenskyy saying, "Thank you, America. Thank you for your support. Thank you for this visit. Thank you, President of the United States, Congress, and the American people. Ukraine needs just and lasting peace, and we are working exactly for that." And now we've got our guest back, Hanna Shelest, the Security Programs Director at Ukrainian Prism. Great to have you once again. To try and pick up where we left off, so Europe has a big burden to take on its shoulders. And of course, for 3 years, we've talked about European unity. We've seen instances of a lack thereof, but by far and by more, Europe has contributed more to Ukrainian security than the United States has. So is Europe ready to take on this burden?
Let's hope, and we know that on Sunday we will have the first meeting in London of some of the European leaders. We also know that on the 6th of March we have another planned meeting, because what is really important that the European leaders start to understand that will touch all of us, not just Ukraine, and that they also need already think about their own security, because you never know what this administration will announce you in 2-3 days. However, my pity is that it is not all 28 European member states plus the United Kingdom and Norway, but we are really missing several European Union member states, and that despite all the facts, everything what is happening on the ground, there are some European politicians who are still eager to be more pro-Russian and not to support the joint efforts. Because when it would be the problem for the European Union, it would be the problem for everybody, not just for France or for Poland, but for some of the other Eastern European countries as well. So that is the yet one call, as we are joking here, the call to wake up number 335 for Europe. But let's be honest, the last 2 weeks demonstrated that the European Union and other European countries really can unite when they understand that this threat is imminent.
Yes, maybe potentially a coalition of the willing. Now, we only have about 2 minutes left, but I want to throw this out there. Maybe President Zelenskyy should hop on a plane to Beijing and quote unquote make a deal. Would there be any possibility that Ukraine would consider such? Maybe it can make a minerals deal with China in the absence of support from the Trump administration and a cold shoulder. Maybe China can help keep Russia out of Ukrainian territories. It should be in China's interest that it protect territorial integrity and sovereignty. What are your thoughts?
Unfortunately, no. We hoped for this at the very first year of the war. We hoped that the threats of nuclear security would be important for China. But we saw 2 plans, the Chinese 12 plans and then Chinese-Brazilian plan. De facto, it is about Chinese interests and Chinese position, but not any real proposals for the peace. China doesn't have the mediation experience. They would like to protect their own interests, and they don't understand the real essence of this war. So all these ethnic, language, historical issues, they are not important for them that much. China was the biggest trade partner for Ukraine before the war. We had huge contracts. However, it didn't bring the Chinese support for Ukraine because they consider that they can take Russia as the minor partner. And as for now, de facto, they're exploiting these vulnerabilities of Moscow and trying to get as much as possible from them.
Hanna Shelest, Security Programs Director at Ukrainian Prism, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And that concludes this edition of World Talks. Thank you for joining us and spending your time here on TVP World. See you next time. Good night.